Hey Campus Georgia, back in the man cave. Remember this? See that? It's an old door handle. I found it at Elko swap meet. 2 of them. $10. Thought it would make a nice walking stick handle. Let's check it out. So here we are here. We have our door handle. I have a stick. This is literally a wooden dowel that I got at the local hardware store. It's about an inch, plus or minus. Long enough for me to trim it down if I needed to. We'll see. And I have pencil, tape, Whittling carving kit, and a drill, because we need to drill into here to put that in. So that'll sit there, and then we'll start carving things and everything. We've got to figure out what we're going to put in it. I'd like to keep the carvings kind of in line with this type of thing, so it all matches together. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm in the South 40 man cave, the shed. It's a wee diddly chilly in here. The temperatures are dropping. We got this guy, and we got a drill bit. They're about, actually that might be a little big. Let's see this guy. There you go. That looks better. Got a drill bit. We got to drill into the end there. It's got to be deep enough for this to go in. Then we're going to fill it with some epoxy, let it dry, and then we start playing. Let's drill that hole. There we go. That'll work. Okay. It's going to bevel this hole, so when we put it in, this round piece actually goes a little bit into the wood. I don't want any gaps. Slightly bigger drill bit. Just going to turn it a little bit with my hand. Let's get a bevel going there. There we go. It's a little bit further in. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make some slots in the hole here, so that when the epoxy goes in, it spreads into those holes. It's going to stop any spinning coming up. Okay, I've made some grooves in it so that when we epoxy this, the epoxy is going to spread into those grooves and help stop it from eventually spinning in you. We need to clean this off because it's kind of rusty and the epoxy needs to join. Clear Gorilla Glue. Now the trick is with this, you have to, because it's metal and it's non-porous, they want you to dampen one side of that you're gluing. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put this in here. And we want to dampen this. Just like that. So it's the next day, and I let the handle set in the wood here, and you can see it there. Okay, it's on there pretty good. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and tight. And of course, when I did that, I couldn't resist. and I wanted to carve. And I did what you should never do. Grabbed the closest knife and started carving. This is a BPS knife that I rehandled. It actually didn't have a handle. It was just a skeleton. And it is a really good leather knife. So that's what I grabbed. Don't do that. Use your Whittling knives. Just so that you know. Anywho, the idea I'm looking for here is you can see you can see the handle here. Now it has these pretty distinctive patterns on it. And I'd like to keep that. The other thing it has is this round edge here. So there's going to be a lot of round stuff intermingled with this type of pattern. So what I'd like to do all the way down the stick. Now this stick it's pretty thick. So I'm going to be carving, whittling, whatever, all the way down and then about halfway down, and then it'll smooth out. But I'm thinking of doing that sort of thing down here, and in between different things that I do, put the pattern in. These types of things. You know, I kind of call it doodling when I do it. It's not the correct thing. This is obviously a very specific design. I'd love to know what it is, but it's very basic. All the shapes, nothing fancy, which is perfect for me because I just like to whittle. I'm no expert, so everything I do is kind of rough. I mean, I clean it up and everything. You want to do that. You want to clean it up and make it look nice. But there's no way I can get a finer detail. I could probably do this because it's not over detailed. So I'm thinking about doing that down here. So that's where we are now. You can see I have just some electrician's tape on here. What I do is I like to use the electrician's tape. I'll wrap it around and it helps me get it lined up correctly. You can make it nice and straight, and it's a good guide for you to start your cut, you know, your stop cuts and things like that. And we'll get into that, but it's a good way of marking it. You know, if you do a pencil, you'll find that you go around and you get to the other side and you've gone off. It's at an angle or something, or it's got wider, and you want your things to be nice and even. So this really helps. I just thought I'd show you this so far. It's late. I just got back from work. Tomorrow I'll start carrying on with it, and we'll start looking at maybe cleaning this up so you can see how it's done and how the stop cut works and things like that, how I work around. I did put this pin in here just to give it a little bit more strength, and you know, it'll hold better. There's a big hole in there, so I just cut it off. I got to file that down and just make it a little. I am not an expert carver, self-taught. I'm a whittler. I just like to whittle wood. It's very relaxing for me. So, see you in the morning. Morning, campers. Here we are. Just one more thing I wanted to share with you. Here is my, when I go walkabout and things like that, I always carry this with me, and it's my whittling, carving, whatever you want to call, roll bag. This one's from Roaring Fire. Great little bag. They last forever and they do a good job. In here I have just about everything I need that I can whittle a stick with or carve a stick. No stick is safe from me. When I go walkabout, I'll see a stick, I'll pick it up and sit down and make a cup of coffee and just sit somewhere outdoors and whittle away. No particular end in sight. A whole bunch of different knives and other sort of things that I just have in there. And when I do this, you're going to see me using different ones. Another thing I have in this pouch Yeah. Band-aids. Can't be too careful. You should, if you're going to be going somewhere and you're whittling in that, a first aid kit is a good idea. The number one thing you have to remember is you've got to be safe. One of the things you need is a pair of gloves. These are the ones I use. They're kind of bulky. I'm not a glove fan, but when I'm doing some heavy carving in that, I wear gloves. If it's just little stuff that I'm cleaning up or whatever, I typically don't wear a glove, and that's what the band-aids are for, because the knives are little, the cuts are small, allegedly. But the number one thing you need to remember, these are all sharp and shinies. Everything you do when you whittle, you're cutting things and whatever. Never, never, never cut towards yourself, your body in any way. Don't use your knee, your leg, your arm, or whatever for a support. You always cut away. And that includes other people around you. Don't cut towards them. It's a very simple thing to remember. If you're looking at something and you go, I need to do this, how do I do it without cutting towards any part of my body? And when I'm talking about cutting towards any part of your body, say you have this knife and you're carving here, you're looking at, if the knife slips, where does it go? If your leg is here, that's where it's going. Don't use your leg to support it. Don't hold this and do that. Because, yeah, that's just an accident that you don't want. So please keep that in mind. Number one thing you need to do, be safe. Now that we have that out of the way, let's go carve some more. You will see here, I've been playing again. And what I did was I found one of the patterns on here, this one actually, and decided I'm just going to put it in here. Can you see that? Marked it out with a pencil and just started to dig it out. Not very deep. It doesn't have to be deep. The plan is I will darken where I've cut out. You can darken it. You can put paint in there and then you sand it and it leaves the paint in there. There's all sorts of ways of doing. So that's the first pattern I chose off the head, is this here. So I'm going to go and sit outside because it's a cold day, but the sun's shining and it's a nice day to be outside. So here we are. Mary, say hello. And me like to sit outside when the sun's shining. It is cool. It is now fall. How do I know? I've done a couple of videos of walking sticks, and I've shown you how to carve certain things. Just remember, you always start with a stop cut. You can draw your pattern out and then you trace it out, which is basically a stop cut, and then you whittle or carve or whatever you want to call it into that stop cut. So that's basically how it works. And what I'm going to do right now is, if you look carefully, I've marked a line here with a pencil, and I'm going to basically do another one of these right there, maybe two, and we'll see how it goes. It's not a big deal. Unfortunately, I don't plan anything. I just go and do what I feel like doing when I'm doing it. And, I give myself a guide, which is going to be the head of here, which will tell me what sort of patterns I want to put on. I'm going to carve away right now if you want to just sit and watch and just enjoy the day. Here I have a fairly big carving knife, whittling knife. This is a Mora knife. If you're looking for a good, solid carving, whittling knife, have a look at Mora. They have all sorts of options out there, and you'll see me using them a lot. They're very distinctive, the blade shape and the handle shape. So I'm going to use this to start my stop cut that I had marked out. You'll notice I'm working this way. If the knife slips it, I'm not going to go into anything. You don't want to be doing this, or even this. If you do this, you better be far away when you slip. So here we go. And I'm just gonna cut a groove. Oh, I suppose I should have sharpened this before I did this, right? Minor detail. I'm getting a groove, so I'm okay. Now, if you're new to carving, please take your time. There's no rush. This is something you want to enjoy. So I've cut into it there, not very deep. You can go a couple of times around, just go around and get that stop cut as deep as you want. You don't want to go all the way with it. You just want to have a good starting point, and you can deepen afterwards. So there you go. I have my stop cut, and now I'm gonna cut into it because I want to form the same thing here. So I need to bring this out, this piece. So all I'm gonna do, and I use my thumb as the power behind my cut. Two reasons. If I'm doing this and it slips, I've got all that pressure from my arm. You have better control. You're using this to place the knife and angle the knife the way you want, and your thumb just provides the pressure. The good thing is if it slips, that's it. Doesn't move too far. So always a good thing. And I'm just going to slice in to that stop cut. And you'll notice I don't just push straight in. I want to slide my knife as I push it, kind of like a sweep. You'll get a cleaner cut. It's like you're slicing chunks of wood off, and just go around into that stop cut. If you think of like painting by numbers, you go around and you do the border and then you paint, fill it in. And I'm just going to go around again quickly because I've already hit the bottom of my stop cut. But I'm just going to go around a little bit more, and the more you do it, the more round your carving becomes. Now, I'm using the term carving, not whittling, because we're going to be using, well, maybe not, but difference between carving and whittling, I'm improving my stop cut again. I'm making it deeper, just going along that edge I've just formed, and just go around and slice things off. So I have another little bit deeper cut to go into. As I was saying, the difference between carving and whittling. When you whittle, you're just using a knife and some whittling tools, typically on a knife. It's my whittling knife. It's a little basic old timer, and it has 2 blades on it. The other one, oh, here we go. And here's the other old timer, and this has all the carving blades on it. Can you see that? Different types of tools that allow you to make different grooves. That's all you use to whittle, and maybe some sandpaper to clean it up afterwards, but you don't use any power tools, hand tools, anything like that. When you carve, use whatever you need to use to get your carving done. Dremel tools, power tools, sanding tools, knives, whatever. That's the difference between carving and whittling. I combined the two. I just want to go around and get to be the same depth, so I go around and just keep repeating until I get to the same depth. Something you need to be careful of, the grain of the wood is this way. Okay, it's not that way. And if you flick up like that, you're going to break this off because it's a short piece of the grain. So be careful of doing that. And that's why you do a stop cut. Sure, you don't want to sit here for 4 hours watching me do this. You'd rather do it yourself, right? And all I'm doing is just working deeper and deeper into the stick until I'm the same as that. So I'm at the same depth as there, so I'm stopping there. Something you should know about. A sharp knife is safer than a dull knife. The main reason being, if it's sharp, it's going to cut into the wood. If it's dull, you're going to pressurize more chance of slipping. So you want to keep that edge nice and sharp. So, you know, work on your stuff, and as soon as you feel you're losing that edge, this is a ceramic rod. And all you need to do is just hold it like this, just sweep a couple of times across there, back, be careful you are here, and you'll have put that fine edge back on again. You want to do that every now and again whenever you feel your blade's getting a little slippery. I'm now down to the depth I want to be, so that's good. And you may have noticed I'm not wearing gloves. Not a good thing. If anything, you know, I like to feel my knife, and when I put a glove on, I can't. But I should have at least one glove on, because this is the hand that is closest to the blade. So we should be doing that. Okay. So now I've got my ring like I have here, except this one's been rounded off. Some still needs some more work, but I rounded it off a bit. Need to do the same thing here. What you can do is start rounding it off just by doing this. Taking that corner, this sharp edge off, just slightly with your knife. Now this does two things. If you catch this, like I said, the grain of the wood is this way. It's probably going to pull some off. By getting rid of that sharp edge, it's harder to catch. So you just want to work around. You can see there, I've gone around. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here to start forming it round. You notice I'm turning it around, and now I'm working still away from myself. And now you can see it's starting to round. Now you can stop there or just keep trimming it, or if you're like me, hold on, I have some 80 grit sandpaper. See this? It's pretty rough, and you can use that to very lightly put it in this slot here, and you just rub around. And look at that, just once or twice around, and look how smooth it's starting to round already. Can you see that? Compared to this side. And then you do the same on that side, and then you can do it around this way and round it off like that. So I want to do this side now. Still dirty up here, and if you hold your paper over a little bit, hold it with your thumb, just go around and rub it. And you can see how it's rounded off. Now there's one problem here. This was meant to imitate that. Okay, obviously I can't get that thin, the wood would be too weak. Okay, but this is even thicker than that. I can actually reduce that if I want to, just by working away this with a stop cut and working down and then reducing it. And I'll probably do that as a workaround. I wanted to show you how to do these. Okay, very simple, and it makes a nice effect for a stick. Very easy to do as carving practice. The plan is to repeat this, except here I'm going to go 1, 2, of these. Why? Because I can. The distance between them is important. You see how I've got this reasonably flat, but if you look here, this is curved. If I was to put another one of these here, I can't flatten it out because it's less than my knife. I had room here so I could work, and that's what's so good about these knives. You see how it gradually gets thinner? You can work smaller areas. So I can really get in here. Even if I put the rings close together, I can get in there because this is thin. I wouldn't be able to do it here and flatten it out because I can't bring my knife flat. But the tip I can. I'm going to carry on working there and I'll show you the end result. So here's my second one, but as you can see, I reduced this one a bit to almost match that, but that one's too wide, so I need to reduce it. I'm going to do that now. So here you can see I put the second one in, rounded off a bit. Now I did go a little bit deeper on this side, not too much, because that's about as much wood as I want to take out from this stick. The more wood you take out, the weaker the stick gets. So that's about as deep as I want to go. From now, I want to put a big flat piece here because I want to carve. I want to put some patterns on here. Now what I'm doing here is I'm only reducing it a little bit from here to there. The reason is I want to carve into here and I want to leave whatever I carve into raised above the rest. So you don't want to take it all the way down. You want to leave it a little bit higher so you've got room to carve in and raise your carving. So there I've reduced it a little bit and I smoothed it out because I'm going to be drawing on this to get my patterns that I want, and I'm thinking about these things here are going to be in here. So now I want to start actually doing some detail work on the top here down to here so I can see how it's going to go before I go all the way down. Another nice day out, and I've done a little bit, and what I wanted to do was draw the patterns on there. I'm no artist, and thank goodness these patterns are pretty basic. So what I've done is I chose to put this sort of flower leaf pattern on. On the top here you can see I've put in, hopefully you can see there, I kind of copied these ones and put them here. Now I didn't go very deep on them, you don't have to, and then I'm going to sand it, and you can see I've darkened the top one here. The reason I did that is that when I start staining this to match this, I want those dark so that they stand out. You saw me clean this up, so now I've added those patterns similar to those flower type things, and I'm just going to fill this area. And what I'm going to do is carve out all of this. Now I'm going to use the lines as stop cuts, and then I'm going to reduce outside of the lines so it goes down and all the patterns will be raised. That's the plan. So here we go. I'm going to use my shorter Mora knife here, and this is, does they say what number it is on it? No, they don't, but it's a shorter point here, a little bit slimmer, and allow me to hold it a little bit firmly while I just trace those lines, and then I'll use this to start digging out the areas that I don't want raised. You can see I'm digging out the areas that I don't want to be raised. Just the pattern will be raised. It's tedious work, but if you keep at it, you'll eventually get there. I'm actually going to change my knife now. I'm going to use this one. And this is a Hutzels, and you can get them in different sizes and sets again. It's just a little bit smaller, easier to work with. And now I'm going to start getting all the non-raised pieces reduced. So here you can see I've started to raise it. Now it's very rough right now because this is the initial getting the shapes you want. As you get a little bit deeper, you can do more with it and start to clean it up. But it just takes a little bit of patience. So this is where I am right now. I've basically started getting the profile. I'll go a little bit deeper, and that way I can round off everything, and hopefully it'll look okay once it's cleaned up. That was about an hour worth of carving. Okay, so this is where I am right now. I've cleaned up everything and kind of finished this top piece off. Still plan on doing maybe some more down here and something here to get this to connect. So here you can see I've cleaned it up. Just rounded everything off so that I have a profile. Still a little bit of detail I want to put in. For example, these little leafy things that they have on here. They don't really have any leaf detail or anything like that, but I think I might just add some. I see they have a hole there. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Basically, let me get a little closer for you. You can see I have an ice pick that I use for a lot of things when I'm restoring my knives. It's a handy tool to have. It's just an old one I found. I put a new handle on it, and it's really handy. And I used it to just make these little hole things here. Before I didn't have that. I just basically smoothed it out. But putting the holes in made a huge difference. It brought this stuff out. So I'm kind of happy about that. So here I might just put some lines on these little leafy things, because that's kind of what they're meant to be, I assume. So you can see it there. It's late. I'm going to go to bed and dream about what I'm going to put here. So I've been working on this, getting further down, But I wanted to show you something. You can see where I'm working now. You can see the relief, okay? But look at the relief here versus there. Well, what's different? A bit lighter. If you just use your Bic and burn a little bit, it'll burn the pieces of wood, darken it in places, and then when you're done, you just sand it, and it brings out the relief more. Anything that's higher will be cleaner than what's below it. Kind of like a shadow effect. I'll show you what I mean on this piece here. All I'm going to do is take my Bic and just run it around like this. Now the longer you leave it, the darker it gets. Okay. And I want to do this area because I didn't do it before. I carved afterwards. But you can make a subtle change. By the way, the Bic will get hot. So there you have it there. Now you can see what's happening. Now if a little bit of cooling and then some sandpaper, and you just lightly go over it. It's not going to look like it's working until you clear the dust off, so don't be shocked. So I'm just going to lightly go over it. And you'll see the higher pieces lighten up. Okay. You can see it there. Now I can make it even lighter by going across the grain. Don't do it with a knife or anything. You don't want to cut across the grain with a knife because it will dig in and you will mess up your carving. Just go lightly this way, across, because the grain is running this way. Get the effect that you want. The more you do it, the lighter it's going to get. And it gives it that raised effect, but it also makes it look used, old. The relief is a lot better than it was before. Now I'm just going to, some of these, you want to make them consistent with the rest. It's going to build up in here, change your sandpaper around, or get a new piece. And there you have more of a relief effect. It stands out a little bit better. Going to keep working down here. See how furry it is? The lighter will take care of that because it's going to burn those little furry pieces off. A lot cleaner now. Okay, so I've worked my way down here, and I was going to stop here, but I decided to do something that I think is very cool, and that is put a twist all the way down. Not all the way, I'm going to stop here, but you can see I've started, and it's a double twist, and it'll just spiral down. And then this is going to be plain down to the bottom. Just got to finish this up, clean up the bottom here, get it the right length, do what needs to be done, and then we're going to seal it and everything. So, fun project. So here I am here with the twirl. Now we're going to start rounding it off to make it look a little bit more rounder like these guys. So 80 grit, sandpaper, hopefully. And there you can see how it's starting to round off the edges. Got to work all the way down. And here you can see it's starting to round off now. So here we are now, and still working on it. I've added a couple of things here. I'm starting to lessen how much I'm doing because we're getting down a little bit more, and you don't want to put any fancy stuff down here because this is probably where you're going to be pushing branches away or things out of your way with. So you don't want anything fancy there. You want to keep it simple, and I'll just try to reduce the wood a little bit. And then we've got to measure how high we need it, what length. So here we are, late chilly morning. Gonna finish it up now. I'm just gonna add a little bit more further down and stop there. Then we're gonna measure it, and it's gonna be measured to my height. I'm not very tall. I'm kind of 5'8". Middle of the road kind of measurement for the shorter people. But I'll give you an idea of ways you need to look at how long you want the actual walking stick to be. Give it a coating. I'm going to use acrylic. It dries really hard, which kind of protects it from the little bumps and grinds you get. And we'll put something on the end that'll help us be a little bit more stable. So let's have at it. Just going to add a little bit of these very plain, silly little markings is all they are, just to bring it down a little bit further. All it is a stop cut that I put little markings on it. As far as the height, this type of walking stick is not one that you hold like this. You have the handle where your hand sits on top. Well, obviously this is a little bit too high for me. I want it down here because I want to be putting downward pressure on it. So I want a little bit of my elbow is not at 90, it's lower. And you want it at a comfortable level. So I'm looking at removing that much from the other side, from here, so that my hand drops from here to here, 1 foot. So I'll take 1 foot off the bottom here. So I'll cut it off at the bottom here. And I'll show you, you can see here, and now it's easy for me to put downward pressure. I can support myself on it. If it was up here, I would need to hold it like this, and really you don't get the same kind of pressure because your handle slip. So I've had a couple of questions in the comments on some of my videos about walking sticks, and one of them was, how can I make my walking stick 2 or 3 different pieces so I can carry it not all as one piece because it's too long or whatever? There's a lot of ways to do that. One of the first walking sticks I ever made was what I called a combo multitasker. I saw it done on a blog that I used to follow. Stick, not foldable, but it came apart and you could put it back together as a seat, a small little chair to sit on. Well, hold on, I'll just show you some of my walking sticks and then I'll show you that one. Here, you know, I've made a few and I give them away, lose them, that sort of, leave them places and whatever. But here is a couple of them. This one just happened to be the right shape. Nothing's been joined or anything. The piece of wood I found was kind of shaped like that, and I thought, well, I could make something out of that. So I made a very basic giraffe head. You can see my carving is limited. And I put some badges on it and things like that, and some what I call traditional carving on it. This is a very plain staff, and you can see, put a handle on it, no carving, called it such because it's such a heavy one, and goes down to the bottom. No fancy carving or anything, just enhance the wood grain and that sort of thing with some acrylic. There is one I did a bunch of carving on. You can see it. It was very difficult to do because of the wood choice. Just found it at a hardware store. And if you look, you see these lines? Well, the lighter wood was really soft and the darker wood was really hard. So it was hard to do any carving on it. But the cool thing, well, you can see I did some patterns, and the cool thing was this: when I did the twirl on it, look how it gave those little like patterns on it. Put a little ball on the top. So it was a fun project. I just called it a colorful walking stick. Here is another very plain walking stick. It just had a ball on the top, so you had your hand to hold it, and some very simple, straightforward carving, nothing much on it. This was just you can make your own walking stick really quickly. This one, I tried an experiment which kind of sort of worked. I got some resin and mixed some resin. In my shed, I used to have a real problem with wasps. And I sprayed them and they all died right where they were. And this was one guy that was attached, don't know if you can see that, to the wasp's nest. So I put him in resin and preserved him a la Jurassic Park. Didn't quite work out as well as I did. I got bubbles, and it was the first time I ever worked with resin. And I got bubbles and things, so it just didn't come out as clear as I was hoping, but it was fun, and then made it very Jurassic Park, I want to say. Carvings on it. Was a fun project. Didn't quite work out as well as we wanted. And then this was what we call a thumbstick with different heads on it, and here you can see what I'm talking about. I used copper plumbing pieces to make a join. See here. So I can take this thumb off and put my Halloween one on at the right time. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see leather strap, put a steel thing on top, found some walnuts that the squirrels had been at, turned them into owl heads, kind of added this wood to it. So now this one here, okay, you see it dead straight. I'm going to put it on the floor here, excuse the mess. And you can see it was just a long piece of wood that I cut into 3, and I added some connectors, brass connectors there, so I could break it down into 3 pieces, put a handle on it, and then added copper pipe. And that's for storage, because this turns into a chair. There's a lot of ways to do it. This seemed to work. You see, I have a female connector and a male connector. I had to make an adapter. And if you watch the video, I'll put that link below. You'll see why I did that. Okay, what do we do with the bottom here? Now, wood, even if you put acrylic on it, you bang it down on different things. If you're walking in concrete or roads, rocks, whatever, it's going to eventually damage it, and it'll start to split and things like that. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. I typically will get myself a brass copper ring, a coupler that plumbers use. This one's a little small for this, but you can get different sizes, so I'm probably going to look for a 1-inch one. I think this is 3/4, and you can see it's too small. But a 1-inch will fit over there. You're going to have to trim it down and slide it on and glue it on. And what it does is it supports the wood and stops it from splitting. You can buy fancy ends. I have a bunch of these. They were sent to me by a subscriber. See that point? Very cool. Same thing. You can put it onto the end and have it there. Now, this is great for slippery surfaces like ice. You go walk outside and it's icy. This will stick in the ice. It won't slip on it. This will. So depending where you live, it's a good idea to put something like this on. That'll give you a grip. It's not going to slip from underneath you. However, if you use it indoors or go shopping and things like this, not going to work. For one, the stores will tell you to get out because this is going to damage their carpet, floor, or whatever. Keep that in mind. Okay, here we are. Whoops. You don't need to see my little treasures. Restored knives. I decided to go with this, except I filed off that point just to make it less damaging in certain areas. And then I marked it off here, made a stop cut, and trimmed it down until it was flush. I'm going to glue this on to here. And there's also a little hole here that I can put a nail or a screw in. I prefer a screw just because when you screw it in, it's going to push that wood out and press up against the side here, which helps. But we'll see what I got. I have some clear Gorilla Glue. It works pretty well. One thing you have to remember is that you have to wet one side for it to activate. This does dry clear. So I'm just going to put a little bit dampen this and then put glue on and put it on. And there we are. We're going to let that dry for an hour or 6 and find a nail or a screw. Then we can start putting acrylic on to protect the wood. Plus I'm going to trim this down so we don't have that sharp edge. finally, we got it done. Here it is here. The doorknob. And then some carving for you. Basic stuff, nice and easy. Just takes a little time. And then I put the end on here, you can see it there. Filed that off so it wasn't sharp. Need to round it a little bit. Put some acrylic protection on, just to stop it from getting nicks and things like that. Great project, fun. You don't have to rush it. Do it when you're sitting outside, relaxing, whatever. Find the time and be safe. Always be safe. You're playing with sharp and shiny things, and we know how that can end. So there you go. Gentleman's walking stick. Fun project. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back. Got a lot of projects going on. Some knife restores and mail calls from subscribers. Always a good time. And hopefully we can get back to some walking. Just saying. Thanks for watching. Always appreciated. We'll see you again soon.